Creativity can be applied many, many ways to storytelling, and we need to do that. And it's not just when you're writing a story or producing a video and how you speak and engage people creatively. It's the words you use and how you connect. You use characters. That's very much a part of this. I talk about this all the time. Compelling ones. A citizen, a scientist, a farmer, someone who's living with climate change. Build a story around them. Let them talk about their experience, their emotion, their joys and their pain, their adversity and their setbacks. I want to invite my friend Steven Beschloss up for a brief moment here, because we're going to treat you to something that's very, very powerful and special, I think. Good to see you.
Thank you, Frank.
Steven does just about everything at ASU, Arizona State University, with affiliations at the Cronkite School, the College of Global Futures, the Narrative
Storytelling Initiative.
The Narrative Story. He's got the longest title in the history of humankind. But that's okay. Very quickly, you did this project called Weathering the Storm.
We did.
Whose voices? What is it?
So it started. Let me go back. It started as straight journalism. We actually put together a team of journalists to gather stories from survivors of extreme weather events on 5 different continents. And those stories helped us to be able to understand what they went through, the futures that they were facing, and how they're looking at the world sort of after that experience. But I thought early on, we gathered those stories, they were published, 10 of them were published by the New Republic, but what we decided early on was to develop a theater piece based on it. And I reached out to a theater director and a playwright. We put together a class, undergraduates and graduate students, to select from those stories. And then from those stories that the class sort of picked, we developed a 40-minute piece. That's what we're about to see, at least as the outcome of the class first, but then this piece, which was developed during the pandemic via Zoom, captured, but it's the, how can I say it? Well, it's an excerpt of the whole production, and soon this is going to be actually produced as a live performance by PBS.
So this is about a 9-minute clip. 8-minute clip we're going to show you here. The words that people will hear are actual words?
They are real words. There's a little bit of dramatization you'll see in one, but these are true stories, and the first words are all true, what people say, and then the subsequent story is a story that was very much a true story.
And these are actors who are bringing this
professionals,
to life,
absolutely,
pulled together by a screenwriter. So let's take a look, and then we'll come right back.
I can't control every aspect of climate change. I mean, no one can control slowing down climate change, though the world is too populated. The only thing is, if every country works together to fight it, but that's never going to happen.
When scientists talk about millions of acres burned or other dramatic climate effects, I mean, it just doesn't feel real.
Some people are just not ready to accept facts.
There's nothing that I can personally do, and I'm not going to change my lifestyle because my impact is not going to be substantial enough to do what people are claiming it will do.
This is the problem. People will believe anything. Same with those masked people. We don't need to bother with it.
It's happening, but like not here in Arizona. It's nothing that I need to stab myself over.
No one can do anything unless all of us do something. Belinda!
Honey, let's not start there. Let's go back a bit, okay?
Okay.
Ronnie had just got home from a high school basketball game.
That's right.
I was in the kitchen cooking supper.
I heard thunder, saw the lightning all day.
He comes in, grabs a beer from the fridge, and heads back out to the porch.
In that short time, the creek had risen like 15 feet.
So, Ronnie comes back in and tells me,
"Take your car and get out of this house now."
He takes our camper and pulls it up onto the hill so we'll have a safe place.
Belinda!
Ronnie, tell them what you did for the people in the neighborhood.
Oh, well, The water was full across my street. Fences, trees, walls, other debris were flooding down the creek. I started beating doors, screaming, hollering, getting the neighbors to come out, get up on that hill.
I could hear him screaming.
I got 5 of my neighbors out. One neighbor, a dad, refused to leave. Soon the water was going through their windows. Whole house, whole family, swept away. The rescuers didn't find their 14-year-old girl's body until 2 months later.
Tell them about our son, Ronnie.
Oh, well, our son. His wife and their kids, they were able to escape to the attic. Their house was flooded. My son paddling the water away with his hands to keep his family safe.
He's a good boy, a good man.
He is.
Oh, tell them about the offer you got, the city's new flood victim housing, City of Hope.
Oh, well, I didn't want to stay in that place at all, not at first. I didn't know if I wanted to stay in town. Some people rebuilt the creek. Now, new coding was set into effect after the floods. Houses have to be built 2 feet above the water line. If I had to sleep next to that creek again, I could never do that.
No, of course not.
So I accepted the offer at City of Hope. I live there now, up on the hill. I feel safe.
Also, got some farmland out in Monroe County, about 30 miles west. Going to install some solar, aren't you?
I am, and it's not just a sometimes flooding problem. Too much water when the big rains come. The drought's so bad, springs and rivers dried up. Wells have dried up.
Hasn't been this bad in West Virginia since the 1940s.
The governor issued a warning. Not using water for personal use. No water for lawns. Washing automobiles, filling swimming pools. We're in real trouble there.
Oh, and the tree cutting.
Cut by the coal mining companies or cut down by the storms.
For decades now, companies have been cutting down the trees to build quarries.
These days, it's just dust and dirt. Nothing will grow. You can see every time going through the coal fields, but they cut the trees.
The white oak trees and the red oak trees.
I don't think people use coal the way they used to. Our governor, he's big on coal mining. He thinks that coal can come back. I have used wood to heat my house my whole life. After every storm, I went out to get the dead wood. I used it. I never cut a tree.
Ronnie.
I tell everybody that material stuff doesn't mean anything. I worked my whole life, and I had anything I wanted. I had more than I needed.
Ronnie.
I tell everybody, we are going to have to educate people, change the ways of living. We need to change because of the climate and how we treat each other. Nature will take its course and the trees will grow back, but it will take time. And that's why we need to do our part now.
It's true. The 2016 West Virginia flood, considered a 1,000-year natural event with a 0.1% probability of happening in any given year, ravaged Greenbrier Valley, West Virginia residents.
Belinda!
Torrential rain and thunder, rising 10 to 12 inches in 12 hours, turned quiet creeks into flash floods, washing away roads and houses and entire neighborhoods. 23 people lost their lives.
Belinda!
Okay, Ronnie. Now,
I told Belinda to take her car and leave the house immediately.
Ronnie didn't know what. But I went back to the house to rescue our dog and cat while he tried to help the neighbors. I became trapped in the house.
I told her over the phone to take the crowbar and the hammer to break the fence and go up onto the porch. I told her when the rescue comes, I would pull the boat up.
The gas line under our house had broken when another house washed down the creek.
Last thing that she said to me was that,
Ronnie, I smell gas.
she smelled gas.
Our house filled up with it. Explosion blew it up and threw me and the cat into a tree.
They ended up hanging in that tree for the next 4.5 hours.
I died a week later at the hospital from the explosion burns.
Belinda?
That tree still stands. It's part of a local memorial.
She was my angel. I love her, and I miss her.
Like Ronnie said, we are going to have to educate people, to change their ways of living, to make a change. Nature will take its course, but it will take time.
That's why we have to do our part now.
The question,
Do you believe in man-made climate change?
Is an old question.
It's not the most important question.
And it's not the question we ask here today.
We can see with our own eyes.
around the world.
Physical reality, more intense and more extreme weather.
And a rising tide of weather-related death and displacement.
Do we think it is in our power to recognize this change and act with urgency?
Do we want to make a difference?
Are we able to work together to make a difference?
If we start to make a difference, is there a benefit that extends beyond issues of climate?
What's the conversation you believe we need to have?
What's the action you believe we need to take?
Are we, America, a place of global citizens that can offer leadership
And collaboration?
With nations and peoples and industries around the world?
To make a better future for all?
Or
Are we not?
I don't know how many times I've watched that. I still tear up at the.
Actually, so do I.
It's just.
Yeah.
That's the power of story and character, right?
Yeah, I mean, how do you create emotion, first of all? How do you get to people's head, but how do you get to people's heart? And how do you create empathy, right? So it's not just a question of, do you believe in climate change? Because you know what, whether you do or you don't, your house might burn down too. Your house could end up in a flood or a hurricane and so forth. So that's been the conversation for quite a number of years. Now it's like, let's actually start to look at what the impacts are and how lives are affected. And so the people that we sort of sought out to tell their stories, we call them sort of voices from the future. We did that really specifically because they're looking at, they've experienced futures that all of us sooner or later are going to, one way or another, more extreme, more or less, but in one way or another.
You're doing amazing stuff. Thank you very, very much. This is phenomenal. And Steven will be around if you want to talk to him some more about this and be part of the conversation that we've got coming up.
Thank you, Frank.
Brilliant.